Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Pretty Girl Be Healed. We stream live right here at HOG Studios every Friday at 9 p.m. I know there was a little bit of a lapse in the past couple weeks, but we are back and better than ever. So I know you guys are probably wondering, like, Harpo, who this woman? But we have a guest co-host tonight, none other than the beautiful Naya.
Hello, everybody.
So Kawana is still here and still kicking, but she is taking a break today. So we do have Naya, who graciously said yes to being on the podcast tonight. So we are so excited to have her input. She is a wealth of knowledge, so we're excited to hear her perspective. And I know you're wondering the topic, are we going to have a skincare class? No, we're not going to have a skincare class, but tonight's topic is girl, wash your face. And we're not talking about the outward so much as we're talking about the inward. So we really want to focus tonight's episode on self-nurturing and self-love because, you know, we can't teach other people how to love us until we first love ourselves. So tonight is going to be an in-depth exploration. So invite your friends, share this broadcast to somebody who needs to do better with loving on them and really getting to know the you so that you can introduce you to the world. So without further ado, I think we should get right into it. You have anything you want to say to the people?
Let's get right into it. I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm excited for the dupe that we have right now with the name of the title.
Yes.
Because we're here to really show you more than what you thought it was about.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we start off with just understanding that self-love is a journey.
Yeah.
Self-love is a journey. It's not going to be something that you conquer overnight. It's not going to be something that you even learn overnight. You know, the journey to self-love is continual. It's something that you're going to have to love yourself at day one just as much as you love yourself at day 60, knowing that day 1 and day 60 versions of you are completely different and you still have to love yourself the same. I feel like the person that I was when the Lord gave me the vision for Pretty Girl P. Hill, I'm not that girl anymore. And I had to learn to love myself through the motions. So, you know, there's going to be moments where you look in the mirror and you legit be like, Harpo, who is this woman?
Who is this woman?
And you have to be equally as intentional about loving you then as you are when you love yourself, when you got it all together. So I think the first sector or the first area that we address is like, the intentionality. How do we become intentional with loving on ourselves, even at some of our worst moments?
Yeah. I think it's all about trusting the process.
Yeah.
And loving yourself through the process. Even like when you begin to talk and when you begin to speak about just like the idea of it being an intentional time that you're taking in any relationship, a relationship with another person, a relationship with yourself. It's going to take you being able to take time to recognize you're evolving, you're growing, you're becoming, you're really moving out just into the person that you have been created to be.
Yeah.
And so as you are doing that, the love that you gave yourself, 2 years ago is not going to be the same love that you give yourself this year.
Yeah.
And the more intentional you are in one area, it may not be the same way of intention that you have in another time, but you're loving yourself through the journey and you're giving yourself what yourself needs in that love.
Yeah.
And even recognizing your love languages. Your love languages is not to just be expressed to somebody else, but it's also expressing like, how do I love on myself? What are those things that I need to hear today? Or what are those things that I need to do today? Or are those things that I need to show up for today? And showing up for myself, that I'm able to truly see that I'm loving myself, being intentional about putting me first, and being intentional about, putting you as in the agenda that you have and the way that you serve everybody else, equally serving yourself too.
Yeah. I think that's so important. I think that sometimes the journey to self-love is so difficult because we're often last on the list.
Yeah.
We give out to our jobs. We give out to relationships, friendships, acquaintances, and so many other areas of our lives. And we look on this already stressed list and find that some days, if we're being honest, we're not even on it. We find everything else to put above ourselves as areas of importance. And we forget about ourselves. So you kind of lose sight of who you are because you begin to identify your own self-worth and self-value with what's on the agenda
Yeah.
versus who you are. It's almost like, what's the song? There's a stranger in my house. Well, you become the stranger. Like you become the stranger. It's
Yeah.
not anybody else, it's you,
Yeah.
because we haven't taken the time to truly understand our likes, our dislikes, what makes us tick, what makes us happy, what makes us emotional. We become robotic in the language of us.
Yeah.
And I think so. I think intentionality is so important because we'll never know who we're truly created to be. We'll never know, what our true destination or even what we're destined for if we never take the time to be focused on seeking that out and not the title that we carry,
Yeah.
not the positions that we hold in and out of the marketplace, not the, all of the responsibilities that we have, but putting all of those things aside, laying all of those things down, and just looking at yourself. Like tonight is the night we look at us truly in the mirror and say,
Yeah.
who are we?
Yeah.
And if we don't know, how do we get there?
Yeah.
So step one is intentionality. And I feel like, it's time to X out of everything. I often joke around and say there's several tabs that I have in my head, throughout the day. And each tab represents a responsibility that I have. Well, if
Yeah.
I X out of all of those tabs, it's just me. And really doing the work to find, what does Nakaya like? What doesn't she like? Look in the mirror like, oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Like finding that core of you, because yes, we all have responsibilities. We all have things that we're responsible for. But outside of those things, do we even know how to make ourselves happy before we try to teach someone else how to be happy?
Yeah. And I think that's very important. And even think about the tabs, girl. I'm the type of person on my laptop, I got tabs, I got windows.
Yep.
I got all the things where like sometimes the most I would say intentional I can be is when I don't have to be an administrator, where I don't have to be a student, where I don't have to be an admissions counselor. I can just be Naya. And I just sit there and I'm like, well, what do you want to do today? Or what do you want to choose today? And today I choose me. Or today I choose, like being okay to say I choose you today. Looking at yourself, I think is very important, and being able to recognize that you should be priority.
Yeah.
And not the last thing on the list.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be last on your list of, what you're pouring into, what you're serving, what you're really loving on, but you should be first. You can only love from what you store up. And so if you're not storing up love on the inside of you for yourself, you can't love other people effectively in the way in which that you can in your full capacity. And then when you're not, loving on yourself and recognizing what you need, you're not able to show up for other people in the same way that you could have if you really poured into your cup that you're pouring from. And I think that's truly important, because that's when you start bleeding on other people. That's when you start throwing temper tantrums because you haven't, sat down. It's like a child. You haven't sat down to recognize what your need is. So you just mad, don't know where you're mad. But recognizing that you have a deficit. And if you address the deficit and recognizing what you need, and what you needed was that self-love, or what you needed was that self-care, or what you needed was that time to really sit there and assess and say like, hey, like, what does Naya need today? What does Nakai need today? And then doing that before you function in everybody else's needs. It definitely helps you go in with a clearer head on serving others, not holding others to the expectations that you have of them being able to tell you what you need.
Yeah, so good.
Is also key. And recognizing that as you're assessing it or starting your day, finding out your needs, then you're able to show up in the places and the spaces of the many other hats that you hold in the full capacity.
Yeah, one thing you said that really stuck out to me was that it's equally as important to introduce yourself to those around you in its totality. I feel like, when you don't know yourself and love yourself and find out even what that means, you often wind up introducing others to versions of you. Versions of you that you've created or grown accustomed to because of your environment or whatever the case may be. But, you might have a group of 3 friends, and each of those friends knows a different version of you. And when you put them all in one room, they're like, well, I know the person that does this, but I know the person that does that. And then the third person's like, well, I don't know none of them.
Are we talking about the same person?
Yeah, like the third person's like, I don't know one of them. It's because when we don't truly understand who we are, what we like, all of those things, just doing the inner work, you will find that each friend knows a different version of you. And if you put all of those versions together, you might find half of you, not even the fullest circle of you. and you often you'll find yourself almost in these life crises because it's like, well, I think I like this, I think I like that. You're trying to fit these pieces and these molds together when it's not functioning properly because you haven't taken the time to know you. We've gotten so accustomed to dressing up the outward according to what we like.
Yeah.
We put on a fragrance, and I'm queen of that. I love my self-care. But just as much emphasis that we put on the outer version of ourselves, we got to do the inner work too.
Yeah.
We have to know, it's not enough for me to become frustrated and can't articulate to you I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
It's equally important to own those frustrations, learn those frustrations, learn about me, what are my non-negotiables, where can I bend? But
Yeah.
you can't articulate that in any relationship, in any job, in any friendship, in any capacity if you don't know first.
Yeah.
So I think, we've identified that we have to be intentional with ourselves. I think it's equally important to talk about just being careful with yourself.
Yeah.
Just like we would handle a newborn infant with care, just like we would handle a new bag, a new car, all of those tangible things with care, we have to handle us with care too. So what does that look like, handling us with care?
Giving yourself grace. I would say giving yourself grace is the number one thing. You will give grace to a lot of other people when they make mistakes. You'll give grace with, a child when they don't really know, when you have to teach them. You have, grace that you give on the job. You have grace that you give, to your spouse. You have grace that you give in all these capacities, but sometimes we're the last on the list that we will give ourselves grace to. And sometimes whether it's striving for perfectionism, sometimes whether it is, what we see in the aspect of like where we want to be, or what we see in the aspect of like what we want to see ourselves being in terms of our timetables, in terms of our agenda and all of those things. Sometimes that can allow for us to not give ourselves grace and to grow in the process, to evolve in the process, and to count the victories along the way, to see how far you came.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't celebrate how much we've grown. We've only can pick apart or pull out, what we messed up on or where we missed the mark. But we have to be equally intentional also about giving ourselves grace and being able to recognize, when we have grown, when we have are able to celebrate the victories and really see the growth that we have along the way. And I would equally say when it comes to even extending yourself the grace, when it comes to even being able to see, that come into the fold, you have to also be equally intentional about knowing where you fall in just your process of that, which it could look like, when you do mess up, not being so quick to speak what it is that you've rehearsed in those areas of, frustration, but being able to speak, you can do better. You're not a failure. Those affirmations that you are seeing and that you are pointing to yourself, everything goes here because, I love God and that's where my relationship hosts, but really being able to see like life and death really is in the power of your tongue. And, what are you speaking to yourself? What are you saying, about yourself? What are you saying to others about you too is very important, because sometimes you end up in those self-fulfilling prophecies of those things that you're saying that you don't really mean about yourself, but you're becoming those things because you keep speaking it.
You'll have what you say.
And you end up being what you say. And really thinking about that, is that what you want to see? I think along the lines of when you were talking and, saying like this friend sees this and that friend sees this, would you believe them if they showed you who you are? Like if they told you like who you are to me, would you believe them? And like, is that something that you aren't seeing because you aren't really seeing the full version of yourself? Or are you portraying a person that you're not? And those people are receiving the person that you're not. You're like, well, that's not who I am at all. Like, that's not really who I am at all. But all they can do is tell you who they see and who you've been showing yourself to be. And so I think it's very important for us to give ourselves grace and to show up as our true, authentic selves, flaws and all. Flaws and all. Not really just being able to look towards perfection, but look towards perfecting. And being able to be there for the full ride, there for the full process, and recognizing that we're all work in progress.
It's funny when you were talking, I heard Dr. Ross in my ear, like literally. And then one of the conferences I attended that she spoke, she talked about intervals. And the intervals that we make when we're frustrated or, when things don't work out, we say things like, I'll never be, I won't do this again. I tried this already, and I promise I swear I don't do it again. Things like that.
Yeah.
We do that. While we do that with endeavors and people around us, we do it. We often do it with us. We
Yeah.
probably do it with us the most.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, we are our own worst critic.
Yeah.
We will look in the mirror and pick apart everything that we despise about ourselves. If it's the way we talk, the way we act, the way we think, what we wear, our size, our hair, our skin, all of these things, we will sit in the mirror and pick it apart as if we weren't created in His image.
Yeah.
And then we have these inner vows to ourselves that we've committed to, that we'll never do this again, or we'll never try this again.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, it is very much important to sit with ourselves in those moments and honor ourselves and God by identifying the moments that we can celebrate about ourselves.
Yeah.
In a therapy world, we call it cognitive restructuring.
Yeah.
And all that means is that you're intentional about replacing the negative thoughts or more positive things, or
Yeah.
positive things or positive thinking. And I think that the journey to self-love is literally doing that.
Yeah.
It's taking those moments where every time we've pointed out a flaw, something we don't like, something we can't stand,
Yeah.
that we equally find the positives in it. Like, oh, you know what? I want my hair to grow longer, but baby, I come a long way. You see the swing.
You see
Like,
the
you see the
swing.
swing.
Okay.
And just
Yes.
equally celebrating the core of you.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'll be honest and say that I've learned the hard way. In a lot of ways, in a lot of areas, I am very much head down till it's done. Head down till it's done.
Yeah.
And then when I finally hit the mile marker of done, I don't celebrate. I move on to the next thing. I never really give myself moments of celebration.
Yeah.
And not even just in work ethic or school, even just small accomplishments that I have made within myself is head down to the next thing. I never celebrate, and I always consider what's next. I'm always chasing what's next.
Yeah.
And here recently, I have found those moments where I'm intentional with myself and others around me, and kind of doing the inner work to reintroduce who I really am.
Yeah.
And often people think I'm always serious and, straightforward, analytical, but there's a bubbly side of me.
She's a goofball. So.
There is a bubbly side of me
Yeah.
that I absolutely have come to love. But I
Yeah.
had to find her again. Because
Yeah.
somehow along the way of life, I just became very analytical,
Yeah.
very administrative. It's who, what, when, where, why, how, and what time. And forgot that I love a good cry till I can't feel my stomach laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm a comedian in my own right. Some stuff don't be funny to others, but I think it's funny.
I think it's funny.
And I think it's funny.
know.
But I, in my own journey to self-love, and I'm talking about here recently,
Yeah.
within the past year, my journey has looked like finding those moments again where I show up as the full me, not
Yeah.
the therapist, not the pastor, not the friend,
Yeah.
not the friend that somebody else wants me to be, not the
Yeah.
wife, not the mother,
Yeah.
but the Nakaya that will literally laugh until she cries.
Yeah.
And finding that girl, it took work. Because it was almost like going in the closet that you don't want to tell nobody about, and moving all of the boxes, moving all of the cards, moving
Yeah.
all of the mail, and digging to the core of that closet and go, oh, there it is. And literally got to get up in there to dish it out. So I think that, to the point in finding those moments where it's not always going to be pretty. The picture ain't always going to be pretty. But every canvas has that moment of ugliness where, like you said earlier, you got to trust the process.
Yeah.
And, in trusting that process, you're going to look up in there some days and be like, girl, and I don't even want to see you today. But you still have to love her too. Like
You still have to love her
that girl,
too.
you still
Yeah.
have to love her too. That girl that you're seeing in the mirror that you don't like is equally of deserving of the love as the same girl that got the hair, makeup, and got it all together and is fly and fabulous.
Yeah.
So I think the theme of what we're talking about so far is be careful with you.
Yeah.
We're careful about everything else, but be careful with you,
Yeah.
because you got to live with you forever, ever, and ever,
And ever.
and ever. Like you have to live with her day in and day out. So take care of her.
Yeah.
Take care of her, nurture her, love on her, even
Yeah.
through the moments where you're like, I can't believe I just did that. Love you anyway.
In spite of.
Yeah, because you can't divorce you. Like you can't
Kind of
just,
stuck with you.
you can't exit the chat on this one.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you can't just exit the chat because you fed up. Like that's not how that works. So
Yeah.
through the good, the bad, we found our resolve and love you,
Yeah.
all of you.
Literally loving all of you. I heard, counting your small wins.
Yeah.
Being able to take appreciation, not looking for everybody else to appreciate you, but you appreciate you. Not just having your head into, what's the next thing to accomplish or what's the next thing to do, but really sitting down and being able to see, like, I did that. Something that I couldn't do before, or I thought I couldn't do before, I've accomplished that. Something that I've been working really hard to. And not a lot of people have known the things that happen behind the scenes, but I'm here now.
Yeah.
And so being able to count those victories is very important. And like you said, like, there's only one you. Taking care of your temple, loving on yourself, literally. So at first, when I was going over to, like, what I was thinking about talking about with the episode, when I saw, like, wash your face, I did not see it, like, at all as, like, just a skincare thing. I was like, oh, I see where she going with this. Oh, I love it. And so literally, what I had wrote down, it says, wash your face. It's not the first thing others see when they see you. It's not just the first thing others see when they see you, but it's the first thing you see looking back at you when you see in the mirror.
Yeah.
So when you see you in the mirror, when you look at yourself, that's the first thing you see is your face.
Yeah.
Your face is, sometimes you got to move the onion. You got layers.
Yep.
You got to remove all of the things that other people have said about you. You got to remove the ideas that you have about yourself and where you thought you would have been or what you should have been or what you could have been and all those different things. You have to remove the doubt. You have to remove the fear of the unknown or the next. You have to remove all of these different things to be able to see you that you were created to be. And when it comes to washing your face, it's washing off those things that don't have room anymore.
Yeah.
There's no room for it anymore.
Yeah.
And being able to really clean yourself of all of those things that don't make you you, but is blocking you from really seeing the full, true version of you and others too. And so really when it comes to that, it's the inward journey.
Yeah.
It's definitely an inward journey beyond just outward appearance, but it's really you being in it for the work, in it for the long haul, and not being, I would say, complacent with who you were. But being that much more charismatic about who you can be.
Absolutely.
And who you're becoming.
Yeah.
And I think that's equally as important, not just, looking at, where you've come from, but looking where you've come from, where you are in present, but knowing that that's not the end, but there's more on the other side of it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we do a really good job. I just lost train of thought, guys. Hold on for a second. It'll come back. I really do feel like we do a really good job at the dress up. When we gotta reverse that. I love what you said about girl wash your face, because I had that same thought, like a very similar thought. If you consider where it came from, was that if you consider the face you have before you wash your face, and I'm talking about like just got up, just stretched, just hit the floor, just yawned with your morning breath, like on the way to the bathroom to wash your face.
Yeah.
It is literally that moment when you have looked at yourself in the mirror. That is the truest form of you in the most vulnerablest of states.
Yeah.
It is a face and a look that most people don't see.
Yeah.
Even if you continue throughout the day and now you're coming home and you're taking off the lashes and you're putting the wig on the nightstand or you're wrapping your hair or whichever the case may be, and you are preparing for the evening, you put on your pajamas and however whatever your routine is, and you wash your face from the day, that same vulnerable space, that same face is looking back at you in the mirror. It's her that you have to love. Taking off the day or before you put on the day. It is her. And that's the her that you nurture, because it's not the her that people always get a chance to see. And if you do see it, that's a vulnerable moment. That's somebody that you trust to see you in that space. So that is when a girl wash her face, it literally, I feel like it dropped out of the sky, literally, no lie. But girl wash your face for me was that level of vulnerability that only you sit with most times. And I think that part of this discussion is reversing the narrative that we must dress up the outside first.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, y'all know I love my smell goods, I love my makeup, I love
yes.
the jewelry, I love getting
Love
dressed
looking
up.
good, smelling
Yeah,
good.
like I definitely show up as the best version of myself and in my
Yeah.
confidence when I look the part, and I love that
Yeah.
about myself. But it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough to dress up the outward and you have not
Yeah.
healed the inward.
Looking the part is not enough.
It's not enough because you can be a well-dressed fool. Let me just be. It is
Yeah.
what it is. You can be a well-dressed fool.
Yeah.
You can walk around with the best of fabrics, the best of whatever, and be empty. I think of a luxury. Everybody loves the Birkin and the Hermes bags.
Yeah.
19, 20, 25, 30, upwards of $100,000 bags. The finest of leather, the finest of quality. But what good is the $100,000 bag if you ain't got $100,000 in it? Literally, you spend all this, for this pomp and circumstance, the best of cow or whoever's leather it is.
Yeah.
And there's no substance on the inside. It's the same thing. We dress up the outward, but the
Yeah.
inward is a hollow shell of nothingness
Yeah.
because you haven't taken the time to cultivate you. Just
Yeah.
like you would prepare a meal, there are ingredients that you need for the not just for the appearance, the eye appeal of the meal, but there
Yeah.
needs to be some substance to keep it together, and it gotta taste good. Hello?
And it gotta taste well.
We foodies
Seasoned.
around here.
Yes.
We foodies around here.
Definitely foodies.
So, it has to have that substance, and the same with us.
Yeah.
It's not enough to put on the shoes. It's not enough to have the matching bag, matching belt, jewelry on, all on every finger. It's not enough. It's
Yeah.
cute. Don't get me wrong. It's so cute. But the internal is just as important, if not more important, than the external.
Yeah.
So I think that we got to reverse the narrative. Society, social media tells us we got to be this size, look like this, dress like that, smell like this, hair got to be like that. But what about the inside?
And it changes with the sway of the day.
Okay. Because one day pink is in, next day it's red, then it's purple, then it's whatever.
The next day TikTok says something else, and now that's Bible.
Exactly. But what remains when
Yeah.
style fades, when fashions have gone
Yeah.
away, when trends are no longer on the up and up, when things stop being on sale, what remains is what you've watered the most. And it should be the internal aspect of you and not the external. So reversing the narrative and really getting to love yourself is to, as much effort as we put in day to day to be beautiful as ever with our beautiful selves, we got to be beautiful on the inside too.
Yeah.
Because that's where the true work begins. We can spend hours doing our makeup, curling our hair, all of those things, but it's not enough if we haven't done the internal work.
Yeah.
The internal work, and even addressing the trauma of us, the stuff that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
The trauma of mishandling us. It's important to even work through that process. What does that look like when we've spent decades mishandling us, and then dealing with the trauma of that? Because
Yeah.
part of self-love is not just, oh baby, you so beautiful. Yeah, we beautiful, but we got to deal with the ugliness in our beauty,
Yeah.
which is our traumas, the things that we've gone through that have attributed to, the lack of self-love or the absence of self-love. What does that look like?
Yeah. I was going to say so first I heard before was the idea of starting the day with you and ending the day with you.
Yeah.
But then also recognizing when you're addressing, what you have to deal with. What happens when you're the person that you're putting your finger back at too?
Lord Jesus.
Sometimes we like to point at other people and say with this person, is the reason why I don't love myself, or this person treated me this way, or this person rejected me, or this person. But what happens when this person becomes you?
Ooh,
And you have
yeah.
to point back to yourself, where you've adopted maybe the things that this person has said to you. You took it in and you held it as being, your narrative and what you see for yourself. What happens with self-rejection? Is that rejection that you're facing, and not just the rejection from others? What happens when the doubt that you're experiencing is the doubt that you're replaying in your own mind?
Yeah.
About yourself, about your capabilities, about what you're able to accomplish, all of those different things. What happens when you are the common denominator
Jesus.
of the issues that you're having? And that happens when you're not loving yourself, you're not being careful with yourself. You're not being able to look at the trauma or look at the lens that you're viewing yourself from. Sometimes sometimes that lens can be planted by society. Sometimes it can be planted by, growing up, the generational, I won't say generational, what I will say is the word curses.
Yeah, word curses.
Sometimes what other people have spoken over you is the things that you show to be true.
Yeah.
And you've also utilized that lens as viewing yourself. And so unconsciously now that has become how you see yourself. And so what happens when that's the factor? What happens when you have to undo that? And being able to undo, I'm not just believing what other people have said about me, but, who am I in my core? Maybe I do have to deal with my character, with my attitude.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
I do have to deal with my attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, recognizing that you can be beautiful as you can be, but if your character sucks, you're not beautiful
Yeah.
inside and out. So it cancels each other's out. It's nothing like you said before, like going to eat a good meal and look real good, but when you go to eat it, it's like, man, like this ain't good at all. Like I was catfished. Like,
waiter
give me some season. Waiter, give me send this back. Send it back and prepare it over again.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to sit down and prepare ourselves over again. And being able to say like, hey, I'm going to delayer myself of what I thought I knew about myself. I'm really going to sit with myself and say, I want to learn me again. I want to learn me over, and I want to learn myself the right way. And that's going to come with, that introspection. That's going to come with you being able to deal with, maybe the bullying that you've gone through that has allowed for you to be able to have that different lens. And bullying isn't always in school. Sometimes bullying can be at home. Sometimes bullying could have been your parents. It could have been your siblings. Sometimes you could be your own bully. I'm saying, like, I lie to you not. I've been in rooms and spaces where people are saying, like, I'm too skinny, I'm too fat, I don't like this about myself and all those different things. And it's just like, you don't notice how those jokes that you make about yourself become your reality or what you think. And it becomes your reality of, the things that you're rehearsing, the word curses that you're speaking over your own life, and also those things where you can't see beyond it.
Yeah.
And so, like, I always encounter people when I go out, like, I love to dress, y'all. I love clothes. I have a little too much clothes sometimes. But for me, I love clothes. I like being able to put together different things, different ways. And sometimes stuff I will buy and be like, okay, I don't like it now, but 3 years later, I like it again. And I match it up with something. Let them marinate, the idea is they're cooking. And so for me, like, I've gone to different jobs, and there have been so many women that be like, oh, I love your outfit, or I love how you put this together. And I'm always quick. I'll be like, this is where I got it from. You can get it too. Like, I'm always telling people I don't hold anything. I don't gatekeep. I don't. And so, like, I literally would tell them, they're like, well, it looks nice on you, but I probably wouldn't wear it. And then I'm always like, well, why? Because I'm newsy. I'm always like, why? Why can't you wear it? And they're like, well, my arms is this, or my leg is this. And I'm like, girl, you beautiful regardless. The only person who's thinking about those things is you. Yeah, the only person who is thinking about those things is you. And I feel like we are most confident when we don't let ourselves talk ourselves out of making, decisions to walk in our confidence.
Yeah.
If you like that thing, buy that thing. Okay. And wear that thing. And don't be telling yourself it's not going to look good on you.
Okay.
Put it on and see it look good on you. And I feel like sometimes people, they won't be willing to try on a new thing because they've been complacent in the old.
Yeah.
You're complacent in the old way of thinking.
So true.
That you won't try on and behold the new, or see a new side of yourself, or be able to see, maybe that's something that you may have thought may not have been flattering before, but maybe it can be. And maybe you should be willing to try something new.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing that I love that was so striking that you said was, what happens when you're the common denominator? What happens when the doubt and all of the other things are a direct correlation of how you see you? Yeah. And when I was thinking about that, I'm like, wow, yeah, that makes so much sense. When you're the common denominator, you can't point the finger at nobody but yourself.
Yeah.
And, this is where, things like imposter syndrome take root.
Yeah.
Where, you got it all together. Like, that you are the professional, you are the intellect, whatever the adjective you want to use, but you talk you out of you. Because I'm talking to me right now. Because imposter syndrome was definitely something that creeps up.
Yeah.
Big time. Like, I could be in a room full of people that are looking to me for direction because I happen to be either the manager or the expert, in my field.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what y'all looking at me for? I ain't got
what
it.
Y'all need from me?
What you want from me for? Like, legit. And having to get with myself internally, like, get it together, because that what they need you carry.
Yeah.
So let's let's get it together.
Yeah.
Go, girl, wash your face.
Girl, wash your
girl,
face.
wash your face because you have the answers in which they seek.
Yeah.
Act like it. Like,
Yeah.
so sometimes, you got to get with you because you will talk you out of you every time.
Yeah.
Every time if you allow it.
Yeah.
And that was something like, and it's still, it's touch and go sometimes where, I know that I have a task at hand that requires me to show up at the fullest of myself. And I have to be like, in the mirror, look, little girl, like legit, and talk to myself in that way. And I'm not harsh on myself. I've learned not to beat myself up in the self-love process, but I've learned that when I need that correction, I know how to self-correct and be like, no. Because you spent too many years on this. Because God gave it to you. And and even when you're unsure, it don't matter what they think because you have his stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Look, I literally have had to look in the mirror and encourage myself.
I was about to say, sometimes you gotta encourage yourself.
And encourage myself through the
Yes.
process, knowing that irregardless of the faces and the facial work that people will portray and make because you happen to be one that holds, whatever the answer is or whatever the solution is, I've had to be like, nope. Because I'm sent here for a reason.
Yeah.
And if I'm sent here for a reason, or if I'm called to birth this business, or if I'm, whatever it is, whatever the journey is ahead, I'm equipped for it. So sometimes in the mirror, deep breath, you got this. You're equipped for this. Like, you haven't come to this juncture in either business, entrepreneurship, career, student, mom, wife, whatever, for not. Like, you have what it takes. So show up that way.
Yeah.
Don't be, don't doubt yourself because if people can see doubt, they will doubt your ability. Like literally giving myself those pep talks. Literally, I found my way into self-love that way.
Yeah.
Because I had no choice. There were certain times where even here, like, here's the mic, it's yours now. Huh?
What?
No. Get somebody else to do it, please. Thank you so much. I'm not doing this. But it wasn't the fact that I couldn't show up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't show up. And I wouldn't show up because I was not confident in me. It ain't nothing to do with anybody else. Never mind, I've gotten past the fear of what people think. Whatever. But it was, I couldn't get past the fear of what I thought about myself.
Yeah.
And once you can do that, once you can combat your own thoughts about you and learn to love yourself through the journey, because like we talked about earlier, it ain't always gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
Some days I'm like, girl, we ain't talking today. Like, I bring this up all the time. And people are like, what are you talking about if you've never seen this series? But when Insecure, when Issa has those conversations with herself in the mirror, it's literally like that with me sometimes. Where I look at myself in the mirror and it's just like, we ain't speaking today. Nope, I ain't talking to you today. like legit, because, it's gonna be some moments where you're like, I don't like you, girl. And it's like, well, you stuck with me. So, like, if you remember that episode where she's like, I don't like you today. She's like, girl, I am you. You stuck with me. We stuck together.
You gonna have to like me.
You gonna have to like me.
Eventually.
Like, eventually, you're gonna have to come back around. We're gonna meet in this mirror again, I promise. But that's literally
I see you tomorrow at the same time.
And then you look at yourself in the mirror because you're fixing an eyelash or something to be like, I said I don't want to see you. Like that, and that's the reality.
Yeah.
But I think, just taking care. We do so much to take care of everything around us. And we all types of falling apart. So we have to, like you said, like we talked about earlier, the first person on your list, the last person on your list.
Yeah.
And in the middle somewhere, cultivating yourself, cultivating what remains of yourself, and rebuilding yourself back up, because it's a process. It ain't always gonna be on the mountainside. It's just not. We would love it to be. We would love it to always love ourselves, to love everything about ourselves, to have great things to say about ourselves. That's not always gonna be the case.
Yeah.
But self-love is the process of loving through the better moments of life as well as the harder moments of life.
Yeah.
The traumas, the successes, the pains, the hurts, the accomplishments, the successes that we had with ourselves, that's all a part of the process.
Yeah.
So, I think the one bit of advice that we could give is enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey and knowing that you are journeying with the one person you can't get rid of.
And that's you.
And that's you. This journey is you gonna hold hands with yourself the entire time. The entire time. When the friends have gone home for the night, when the date is over, when the job is done, when you've clocked out, when the schoolwork is over, when the children are put to bed, it is you, and you.
Yeah.
And that's it, that's all. So I feel like for the woman, for the girl, for the teen, whoever is watching, I would say our next we segue into like, what can we tell them? Like, what is, if we had to put a package together of self-love, what's one of the takeaways that is a must for someone that's journeying towards really just falling in love with you all over again?
Yeah. Embrace the full journey.
Yeah.
I would say walking in confidence from the inside out, recognizing that it's not something that you just put on, but it's something that you put into. And so you're investing time into putting in love into yourself so that you're able to continue to pour from that. And recognize that it's going to be investment. So it's going to be you taking intentional time out to really address your needs. Starting the day to be able to say, what do I need today? Having those assessments throughout the day when you find that, you're frustrated, or you find like you're at your end in patience, or whatever those things may be, life will show you who you are if you let it. And so life will show you who you are if you let it, if you take the time to introspect and think about it, and recognizing, how you're showing up, what you need, recognizing to put yourself first and not last, and loving yourself with self-love. It doesn't have to be out of vanity, but it's out of you being intentional about you, and recognizing that you have to come first. You have to be a priority, and recognizing that you're not good to anybody else if you don't be good to yourself.
Yeah.
And they even say that when you fly on a plane. They say if in the event that those masks come down, make sure you put one on yourself before you go ahead and put it on somebody else. And
So
it's like,
good.
you're no good to somebody else if you haven't first made sure that you were good. And so recognizing that we have to do that too.
Yeah.
And I will also say, because it was something that I was thinking about, is recognizing the enemies. Enemies to your self-love. And so for enemies to your self-love, it's going to be that doubt. It's going to be that doubt that you may have. It's going to be those versions of yourself that you can't see beyond just what you've been told. It's going to be you not being complacent. Not being complacent of, what self-love was required of you 2 years ago. But you being able to grow and evolve with the you that's growing and evolving. So your self-love is going to have to evolve. You may be, focusing on one area and one time, and another in a different. I know for me, my first journey when it came to self-love, it had to start with outward first. And then it became the inward thing. And I remember being cornered, what you said about being cornered into self-love. When I was younger, I got hit by a car. I just had a physical, it was literally just a physical blemish on my knee. No broken bones, thank God. Literally on my side. And so it was just a physical blemish that I had, but it was something that was a scar that left a mark to show what happened. And so people would often ask, I always had so much overly consciousness about it because I know it's something that you can see. So for me, for a while, I used to try to hide it. I used to try to put leggings on. It's in the summertime. Summertime, hot, okay? Everybody else is in shorts. Naya got on shorts and leggings because I'm trying to cover this knee that already healed. And it's like, why you got on shorts and leggings? You hot, you sweating. This don't make sense. And it wasn't until one day I was sitting in the house with my friend's mother and her boyfriend at the time. And I remember them just saying, you're beautiful. Why are you trying to cover up yourself as if you're not beautiful still? The mark on your knee has nothing to do with the type of person you are, who you are from the inside out. And so why is this blemish that you're seeing, that others are seeing, why is the blemish something that you're seeing through that lens? Why are you seeing through the blemish? You're seeing through the blemish and allowing for that to be your narrative. And so for me, they didn't say all that, but they just literally said, you're beautiful, forget what other people think, forget what other people say, but recognize that your knee is not something that you should be conscious of, but it's something that you should see as a blessing because you're still healed, you're still alive, and you are healed. And so recognizing for me, I was like, you know what, you're right.
Get myself together.
Thank you for my pep talk. Let me wash my face. So I literally had to wash my face of that because for me, I was just seeing through the blemish. And I was like, everybody, that's the first thing they see when they see me. I want to make sure that I cover. Now you can tell me. I forget it's a scar on my knee sometimes. Unless people ask me about it, unless John come up and rub it, my little nephew or something oh, you hurt. Oh, I'm like, no, baby, that's old. But just different things like that where it's you had to come into having that physical acceptance, confidence of yourself yourself. And sometimes it's not a blemish for everybody. Sometimes it's not a scar, but it could be you not liking certain features of yourself. Sometimes it's you being able to pick apart yourself, but recognizing those same features as something else that somebody else will love.
Yep.
But you are the one that is holding it to be the thing that is an eye drawer.
Yeah, or that cancels you out.
Or it cancels you out.
It disqualifies you.
Who put that in your head? Who said that there was something perfect under the sun? There is nothing perfect under the sun right now. And so when it comes to that, being able to truly see, like, we have to get beyond the blemishes, beyond just the enemies that are going to be of our self-love.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that doubt. It's going to be the societal trends, the things that we see that, is being marketed as the image of beauty, the image of having everything together. The clowns that are out here are that's showing one thing, but the reality is something different. They got tricks and tricks and schemes underneath the bag, but like really being able to see, like, there's no perfect picture out here. Everybody's dealing with something. Everybody's in their own journey when it comes to self-love, and everybody's on their own path, and it doesn't have to look the same. There's no one size fit all in your self-love journey. One way that somebody else loves themselves is not going to be the way that you are to love yourself, but it's going to require different handles of care, I will say.
I agree. I would say that I'm going to skip to what I think is a fun part, but it literally just clicked that this may not be fun for everybody. You're going to have to, while you're repairing the inward, you're going to have to do things outwardly to repair what's inward. For example, be okay with solo dates. I used to hate a solo date. I would go there, my friend list, please come to dinner with me. Now, baby, I will eat my sushi in peace.
Her dim sum in peace. You don't have to share with nobody.
I have fallen in love with Japanese onigiri, and I will eat it in peace. In peace while I have my meal. I have learned the art of just trying new things that I would never do. I've learned through outward expressions, going to eat, trying new activities, trying new hairstyles. I still ain't got to the natural part. Nah, you don't judge me. I'm coming.
We're gonna get there.
I'm coming. But just literally, doing things for myself that I just have never done before. Trying new things. Go eat. Go do, go to the park and just sit and read a book. Try new water. Try new Gatorade. Whatever your niche. Do that, because you have to be able to sit with you. Doing the inner work looks like you have to sit with yourself. And you have to sit with yourself in home and outside. So date yourself. Try a new nail color.
Yes, ma'am.
Try gold instead of silver.
Yes.
Try ice cream, vegan style or gelato, whatever your choice. But try those things, because that's the journey of self-love. The journey of self-love is long. It can be frustrating, but it has such great moments because you learn you over time.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you guys. Hopefully we ain't beat up, people too much. I know I see some of the comments like, oh Lord, but it's necessary. Part of the Pretty Girl Be Healed platform, while we have fun and we cover a multitude of topics, but it's important, as our theme message is that we dig to the root. And, digging to the root on this platform looks like talking about the things that we don't always want to talk about, but are necessary for your next. It's necessary for the next version of you that you are now going to introduce to the world. So I hope that you had your notebook and snack out and you were taking notes, because we dropped gems tonight. And we will be right back here next Friday at 9 p.m. We want to thank Naya so much and give her the opportunity to share what she's doing. Naya is a fabulous entrepreneur and has so many different endeavors. So we do want to give her the space, the opportunity to talk about what you're working on.
Yes, so I'm working on a lot. I would just say follow me, and then all the other things will come into play. I am Notorious NIA on Instagram, and on Facebook, just Naya Hunt. For me, I am working on a book. It's called Dancing in His Garden.
I cannot wait.
And so the book is really just depicting the walk of God through the eyes of dance and examples, but truly just the journey that is with walking out a life with God, surrendered to Him, and just really seeing just how He is taking you through the journey of becoming. And we are well-watered gardens, I'll say. And so it's a continuous process. You're not arriving, but you're continually striding in it. And so I'm excited for that. More details will come out with that. My shirt.
And her merch,
We
yes.
got some merch out.
Most comfortable hoodie I own right now.
I love it. I love it. We have pullovers. And so Chosen Jen is going to be a business that I'm launching out into the water now. I'm going to get more on social media and a website coming soon. But with Chosen Jen, it's really about recognizing that we are chosen and we are royal priesthood of the Most High. And so recognizing when you are chosen is you showing up in your full authentic self in every aspect. And so we're going to have, chosen girl, chosen boy.
Yes.
We're going to have, the affirmations that we need to really see ourselves to be who we are destined to be. And so I'm definitely grateful to have been on this chat because it's really showing that, walking in that, and really allowing us to see the version that we have been created to be. So that is just some of the things that I have that I've been working on. There's much more. I have, I would say, journals, and so I've been working on personal journals that we are able to have prayer journals or blank journals, and they are all like faith-based in terms of marketing, I would say.
Gotcha. If I see how that fell right in, showing up as our authentic selves.
Yes, ma'am.
So all in all, we want to say, girl, wash your face.
Wash your face.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this episode. And thank you, Naya, for your yes to co-host this episode. And we will see you guys right here next week on Facebook and YouTube. If you didn't catch the video, we're also on audio streaming platforms, Spotify, and so many others. And until then, bye, pretty girl.